And we're recording. Okay. So welcome. I'm Pam Gallagher. I'm sure everybody knows that. that one thing is we do know. We're not sure about anything else, but we pretty much got that. So today is August 27th, 2023. Welcome to Midwest School of Astrology. I'm going to show you something that Mindy hasn't seen yet today either. And I think it's going to was a little surprise for her. Mindy is my daughter. Obviously, I do most of the teaching, and I do most of the charts, but Mindy does everything else. So you got any questions and you want to come to school and you want to know anything about anything, you better talk to her. So that's kind of a big joke. I'm like, if you want to know anything, you better be asking Mindy. So what we're going to do, and today, this is schools today. This is our open house for the beginning of the fall season. And of course, Midwest School of Astrology, most of you is a 3-year, 500-hour program. We're the only certified school in North America. We have a certified curriculum. It prepares you if you choose to sit for one of the organizational tests. But you will carry an MWSA diploma from the school, which is recognized by almost any astrologer in the world, because they know you've paid your dues, taken your tests, and done your 3-year exam. And so you're welcome it prepares you to do anything else you want to do. So today at 3:00, we started our open house, and I thought this was very interesting. And of course, the sun, this is a natal chart. Hey, bud. And the sun is in Virgo. Today, the moon's in Capricorn and Sagittarius at 9 degrees, was rising when we opened today. And Mindy hadn't seen this, but when we were cleaning, God help us, yesterday, I was cleaning out some old drawers, and I came out a chart called The Purchase of the Midwest School Building. And we closed it September 27th, 2013 at 1 p.m. I had the chart, I had saved it in a folder in my desk, which I found interesting. And guess what? The ascendant was 9 degrees of Sagittarius. That's the exact degree at 3:00. We start. There are 360 degrees in a circle. They all come over the horizon once a day. And Mindy picked the chart. I didn't, and I just found the chart yesterday. Believe me, here it is, and it was in my file folder. So there's the chart, and I had not, quite frankly, I'd long since forgotten I even had a chart of the building. But of course, I would not have closed without looking at it. But then I put it away and went on about my life, because life is about living. It's not about planning, and it's not about black and white. It's about making better choices because you're tuned into timing. And that's what the chart gives you. It's divine timing. I can tell you I've been at this 53 years, and I am very, very confident now that the chart really is your spiritual DNA and how you're plugged into the universe. The universe is an energy grid. It's very precise. And our chart is how we chose to plug in at this time to have access to certain energy so we can make better choices. We don't have to. We have free will. We can do anything that we choose, however. So I thought that this was very interesting. It's actually rather profound. It's certainly a different day, different year, and everything else is different. But there was the same exact degree. And now you'll see that says 9 Sag, and you'll look at this and say, wow, that's the same degree. Now it's a month different. It's, in fact, the sun today is at it's at 4 Virgo, and it was at what, 4? What was it, at 4 Libra? Is that what it was? Yeah, it was at 4 Libra, because we're 30 days out. I mean, so it's a month from now that so consider this our little celebration, our little anniversary. It's a 10-year anniversary of the Midwest School of Astrology. So enough of that. But I thought it was, when I found that yesterday, I thought, how interesting. 10 years, what a profound, we bought this building 10 years and closed on it 10 years ago. Yeah. And we've got some graduates in the room who graduated when we were still down on Madison Road before we bought the building. We were in the Red Bank. But before, you can ask Duffy about, and who else came to me and Carol in Madeira. In Madeira. No, Carla is the only other person besides Duffy that I know of that I ever did a chart for when I lived in Madeira and did astrology charts for there for what, 8 years? Yeah, Red Bank. But before that, I owned a house in Madeira when I was married, and we weren't too, but before that, we were in Madeira, and Carla was there, and so was Duffy, 2 people sitting in the room. So they've been hanging around for a long time. I've been doing this longer than they have, though. I started back in 1969. I was in a PhD program at the University of Cincinnati, and for psychology. And when I found astrology, I just took a big right turn and said, because what I wanted to know is, why are we here and what is this for? And how do we become better people? How do we grow? And so that was always my spiritual calling. And I came out of a Southern Baptist background, so believe me, I had no training. But so to start in 69 and study, and then I went to corporate and spent many years there and retired in 9. People say to me, when are you going to retire? I said, I did in 98. This is it. This is what I do till I die. Mindy someday you'll find me dead at my desk with any great. That's my hope. Lucky me. I said, well, I certainly rather that than her find me dead in my bed. So I'd much rather be working. So, we're all going to leave here. We all came in and we're all going to leave. So today is August 27th, and we're going to talk a little bit about what's coming, because the point of today is what's happening in the next few months. No, the anniversary of buying the house is not. The school started in 2009, but when we bought, I just thought it was interesting that this house, we're celebrating 10 years in this building, and it's been a lot of work. No, it's really been we've really been quite blessed. This has been a much better location than we ever dreamed. People know where we are. They're easy to find. We're grateful. We got enough room for our students. You have a kitchen when you come from work, you can eat. What can I say? When I was going through and preparing my PowerPoint for today on what I wanted to talk about this fall, I popped up a PowerPoint, and it was, this was what I did in the fall of 2019, which is 4 years ago. And Saturn and Pluto and the South Node were all together in Capricorn, and everybody was talking about what in the world was going to be this concrete and this contraction, and what were we going to have to give up, and what was going to be the price. And of course, January was COVID, and then that was the declaration of COVID. But this was in the fall of 2019, and that took several years for the Saturn and Pluto, and then it's all to separate and change sign. But Capricorn is an earth sign, and it's a sign of grounding and practicality and following the rules and the structures. South Node is about letting go. And so to me, this was the initiation of when COVID really hit, and it was to the universe a sign of what's the time to give up. And so guess what happened? Everybody got isolated. Everybody got shut down, and everybody had to decide what your priorities were and how to be with yourself, Saturn. What's your real work? What are you here to do? So anyway, I found that to be an interesting slide. We're not going to dwell on it, but when I looked at my presentation for 2019 in the fall, when we started our open house, I'm like, oh, look at that. Oh, I'm going to save that. I thought, what a great, because looking back, look how far we've come from the fall of 2019, 4 years ago. But life has changed. Life has changed. So what does the fall of 2023 look like for America? Hang on, I'm going to check and see if I've got anybody out here that I'm. Okay, Annie, Denise, Karen, Linda, just checking. Nobody was sitting here. Okay, and Tom. Nobody's sitting out there that I was ignoring. Okay. Oh, did you? All they had to do was ask, and they're in. Cool. Okay, I can quit worrying about you guys then. You're in or you're not in. So here we go. what does the fall look like for America? Well, here's the insight. And some of you are kind of new to astrology, but you're not that new. If you've been to see me, you know that you have a chart. And so does the United States have a chart. And so the inside chart is this chart of the United States on July 4th, 1776. The 5:10 p.m. in Philadelphia is kind of considered one of the most common. There are other charts for the day, during the day, different times. But the sun, nonetheless, is at 13 Cancer all day long. So, but what was happening in 1776 is that the planet Pluto was at 27 Capricorn. Pluto's our most outer planet in our solar system, 250 years. Pluto is transformation, it's endings, it's shift. It's the end of the old and the beginning of the new. And that's what Pluto rules: death, transformation, endings. So when Pluto rolled around, starting this last year, in a minute, if you get online and you read all the hot, write-ups, transiting Pluto has returned to natal Pluto in the U.S. chart at 27 Capricorn. And so here it is. This is August 27th, 2023. Pluto's back. It's coming back to 27 here in another month. But it's the very last hit. This has been going on for 18 months to 2 years for the United States. We as a country, as a people, are in a major transformation, shift, and moving in a different direction. So this is the end. And it's also in the second house of money and resources and our values. There's a big shift in values. There's been a big shift in money. If you think back 3 years, were you using Zelle and Venmo and any other money transfer that you're using? I don't know. PayPal's been around a long time, but we have digital money now. I mean, it's become part of, I do a claim. They're like, oh, do you do Venmo? I'm like, sure. Can you use Zelle? Sure. I mean, used to, could you give me your credit card? That was a big deal. I mean, 15 years ago and credit cards, we had to find the right credit card company. Even 10 years ago, we were looking for the right credit card company to take. Should we do this? Did we want any record of our money? Well, guess what? Now they're tracking, just this month, they're tracking everything. They're even tracking Venmo now, so you're not going to hide it, so get over that. But anyway, but this Pluto is transformation. And the country and our culture is transforming as a country. The other thing that everybody, like I said, if you're online, you know that transiting Pluto has been squaring the nodal axis. And the nodal axis are the nodes of the moon, which are our karmic energy. So people are like out with the old and in with the new, and it's a huge transformation period. And if any of you who work with people, the north node is the head of the dragon, the south node is the tail of the dragon. And it was called in ancient times the dragon himself, which is the mark of wisdom. That there's not a planet at the nodes, it's the nodes of the moon. It's where the moon's orbit crosses the sun's ecliptic. But they are intersect points that are very powerful. And so over the last 2 months, Pluto, in its transiting state, if I go back, I can show you here. Pluto is in the process of making a square 90-degree angle to the nodal axis. What we've seen is a lot of endings. We have seen a lot of deaths. We've seen a lot of illness. We've seen a lot of major decisions for people to end the old and go in a new direction. This started probably in the spring, really. And in July was most intense. And we're still in it. And Pluto is said to be still squaring the nodes up until November, where they'll be when you call orb or in range. What if you're doing a walkie-talkie, when are you in range to communicate and when aren't you? That's what orb is in the astrology world. It's like, am I in orb? Am I in close enough to be able to communicate? So Pluto is squaring the nodes and through November. But if you've looked around your life and you've seen a bunch of transits and major shifts, you aren't alone. My phone's been ringing off the hook with one disaster after another since the spring. So believe me, I can tell you that, and they're big things. It's not, This isn't little stuff. Julie's, I know, a psychic and talks to a lot of people, and I'm sure you've seen a lot of it. A lot. Anne Bombeck, I'm sure you've talked to it. She works, Anne Bombeck is an animal communicator and an excellent, but I'm sure you're seeing a lot of it with your people. So Pluto squaring the nodes. So but for the US, yes, but Pluto now, you see the transiting Pluto squaring the transiting nodes, but that's for the whole world in transits or current time. You know, it's like, oh, where are the transits? Well, when you listen to an astrologer and they'll say, oh, Saturn is here. Well, they're talking about where it is in its movement, not where it is in your chart. Your chart is where it was the day on a snapshot that you were born. That's what a natal chart is. While I'm here, just talking about something significant about the U.S. chart, we have new moons and full moons and eclipses. We have a new moon and full moon every single month, and we have eclipses twice a year, because that's when the new moon or full moon ties up with the nodes, and then you get a shadow because they're all flat, and so either the sun or moon are shadowed, and that's what the word eclipse means. But they're 10-to-1 in power over a regular new moon or full moon. The eclipse in the end of October, 10/28 at 5 Taurus, and it will be squaring the nodes of the U.S. of the United States. And those are the nodes of the moon. And you're like, well, what does that mean? I mean, I know what you're thinking. And okay, I see it. What does it mean? So I drew a little picture, and I'm like, here's the eclipse at 5, and it's squaring the nodes at 6. That's within a degree. We got 4-degree range, and we got 1. It's tight. So we are already in the impact of the eclipse of October. So we are looking at a full moon as a culminating emotional peak, because the moon has the power to move the oceans. If you ever watch the weather, you know that the tides are higher on the full moon than any other time of the month. And the moon has the power gravitationally to control the energy of the oceans. And if it does, we also are the same 75% water. It has the power to control us. Okay. So the full moons are a big deal. The eclipses are even bigger. And the eclipses are squaring the nodes of the U.S. moon. We are seeing an emotional trauma for our country that's big. I'm not going to go back and say, oh, the last time this happened was, but it's squaring it. And we're already in it, because the 3 months coming into an eclipse, and this is October 28th, and we're at August 27th. So we're 2 months out, but it starts 3 months in and 3 months out. So you're seeing this rising, emotional, intense energy, which is geared to shift the direction of the United States. And the North Node is our growth, and it's in Leo, which is leaders. So what are we seeing? We're seeing a battle over who's going to lead. It's interesting. So it's going to get hotter before it gets less. That's all I'm going to tell you. So if it upsets you, don't watch the news. This is about all I can tell you. But it's going to peak into October, November, and then it'll start to ease off again. So you're like, okay, but it's divine timing. It's time for it to all come, to the surface. It's all time for it to peak, to become visual. So, don't be like, oh, this is awful. This isn't right. And you're like, no, this is part of divine timing. It needs to all come to the surface so that everybody can hash out and decide where they stand. And by the way, I'll just tell you, is part of the school, all the students here the minute we start, but this is not a political arena. This is a spiritual school, and we're studying the universe and spirit and growth. And so you all have your political beliefs, and you're welcome to them. You just can't have them here. Leave them at the door. Leave them at the door. Whichever way you swing, I really don't care. Don't share it with me, and don't share it inside the building. Other than that, do what you want. So why? Because I've had people leave the school over people who insisted, on establishing or stating. I had a lecturer come here to the school, and she absolutely insisted on, talking about her candidate and how dumb everybody else was. And I had 2 people get up and leave and never come back to school. They were so offended. This is the Midwest. This is not the East or the West Coast. It isn't okay here. So I tell the teachers when they come, you're welcome to teach whatever you want, whichever system you like, teach it. Just stay out of politics. Keep it off the screen. They know it. Even my dear friend Ann Ortley, who's coming in September, and dear God, we all know if you listen to Ann Ortley online, Ann's weekly weather, she's great. She's funny. She's knowledgeable. She's incredibly liberal and can't shut up about it. And I said to her, you're welcome to do it, but you can't bring it here. So she's coming in September. And when we set the date, she said, and I know. I know, don't. And she's like, why are you asking for that? And I said, because I warned you before, we're not using candidates or political people, it's our examples. We have enough other people in the world that we can look at besides them. So if the FYI, you hear, it's true. That's where I stand. I don't have any other rules. You can come and go as you want. You can eat what you want. You can sleep when you want. You can do whatever you want. You just can't do that. So here we go. So this week, we do have a full moon. Today is the 27th, and the full moon depends on what you're looking at. In the United States, it's on the 30th at 9-something p.m., and I can't read it. And put my glasses on, I could probably. 9:35, is that what it is? And then if you're in England, Greenwich Mean Time, it's at 1-something in the a.m. So when I do my lunation sheet, it said the 31st, but in the United States, it's the 30th. So if you want to know when the full moon is Wednesday night in this country at 9:35, believe me, that full moon is in effect for 48 hours enraging energy. Let's talk about the full moon. If you've read anything online, it's at 7 Pisces in 25 minutes. We have a full moon every month. Let's not get crazy over, it's a full moon. We have one every month. This particular full moon happens to be a little bigger. It's called a supermoon. A supermoon is a fairly new phrase. It's when the moon is if you want to get proper in perigee, the moon is closest to the earth in the year. There will be 4 supermoons this year where the moon is closer to the earth than it ever is the rest of the year. This is the largest. So I said it's close to the sun, it's close to earth. Whoop, it's wrong. It's close to earth. It's more intense. It brings issues to a head. When we say it's a blue moon, and it is a blue moon because it's on the 30th, 31st, there was a full moon on the 1st of August, and there's one on the 30th or 31st of August. So there's 2 in 1 month. That's a calendar issue. And we're now using the Gregorian calendar. We used to use the Julian calendar up until the 1800s. From Julius Caesar, now we're using Gregorian from Pope Gregory. And they added some time to it, the leap year. So the calendar, that's man-made, which you're going to use the Mayan calendar, which one you're going to use, Currently we're using, if somebody asks you, we're using the Gregorian calendar. So the blue moon, we have one at the beginning of the month, one at the end. And they're like, oh, once in a blue moon. Well, it doesn't happen that often because it's got to hit on the first day for 29 and a half days later for it to hit in the same month, right? Do your math. So, that's what a blue moon is. But the super moon is when the moon is closer to Earth than it is at any other time of year. And so this particular full moon is both. It's blue moon and super moon. So now it's in the sign of Pisces. We have a full moon in Pisces every year because the sun's got to be in Virgo for the moon to be in Pisces. It's not a rocket science. That's the way it is. So you're like, okay, that's not hard. We know. Oh, this is September. The sun must be in Virgo. That means when we have a full moon, the moon's got to be in Pisces. It's its opposite sign. So Pisces, full moons, their job is to culminate, to bring things to a head. bring issues to a head, to peak them. It's not necessarily endings. People think, oh, a full moon is endings. Well, maybe. But it certainly does bring it all to the forefront, I can tell you that. Pisces is a water sign. And so water signs are more emotional, sensitive. Pisces makes this time more emotional, overwhelming. It can be delusional or deceptive because that's what Pisces is. It's ruled by Neptune. It's a sensitive, but now you've got all the versions of sensitive in water, which one you want. So the full moon in Pisces, it's going to bring out sensitivities, emotional reactions, and it may bring out secrets because Neptune Pisces can be secretive. So hang tight, watch out, and see what you see. You'll know who got hit, whose chart got hit. You're like, oh, you must have something around 7 Pisces, 6, 7, and 8, 1 degree either way. You're like, ooh, that must have hit your chart. It's the way I look at it when I hear, oh, such and such happened. I'm like, that hit you. So while this is a full moon. I mean, this is Wednesday. The moon's at 7 Pisces. The sun's at 7 Virgo. The moon's at 7 Pisces. And so we have a full moon. And moon, by the way, Saturn is with the moon. Now, Saturn is work, discipline, responsibility. Moon Saturn conjunct on the full moon says, be real, focus on real issue, because Pisces is a dreamer. I live in my dream world. I like my dream world. Leave me alone. And so this Pisces says, I like my vision and my dream and my imagination. And Saturn says, bottom line, real contracts, strip away the no nonsense, get to it, just get to reality. I always say Saturn was concrete. It's like bottom line. So here we are with Saturn involved in this full moon in Pisces. So we just say all this dreamy, visiony, I wish. And here comes Saturn and says, get real, make a list. So it is conjunct. So I'm just warning you, over the next week, if you're challenged, like, that's not what I wanted. It's not how I saw you. Put it down, get real, and get on. Got anything you really need to do before it beats you, you beat it. It's how the energy's there. How are you going to use it? Energy is not a punishing universe. Is not a punishing universe. It's just energy. But it's your choice. So Moon Saturn's conjunct. Okay, we know that. So then I'm saying, if you know your chart, where is 7 Pisces in your chart? Because you're going to be feeling it there. Everybody, even if you don't have a planet at 7 Pisces, 7 Pisces is in one of the houses, in one of the areas of life. And so you want to know where you're going to get slammed. Pay attention. Or call your astrologer, whichever one. Or call your friend who's a student, either one, whatever. It's like, okay, where's 7 Pisces in my chart, because they've already run it. You can go on my website and run them for free, So you can put anybody's chart in there and run it. You got their birthday. At least you've got it. You may not know how to read it. That's the next question. Once I figured out how to do them, I'm like, now what do I do with them? And the woman that taught me started laughing, and she said, well, you'll spend the rest of your life figuring that out. But it only took me a couple of months to figure out how to do the chart accurately. But that's back when we did them by hand in the dark ages, when we walked a mile to school, which I did. But that's how old I am. But I tell my grandkids, they roll their eyes and like, oh, we have to listen to that again. I walked through the snow at the mile.
Yeah, that's what you sound like.
So do everybody else. I didn't know any different. So anyway, this week, on top of having a full moon in Pisces, that's a super moon, which is going to exaggerate everything. We have Uranus. Uranus is an 84-year planet. It wasn't discovered until the 1700s. It rules electricity and change and new and breaking loose and progress. Sag is electrical, and Uranus is going stationary, meaning it's moving backward. It's stationing. When a planet, now planets don't go backward, okay? Just in case you know. So the planets are all moving right around the solar system, and then one slows down because they're way out here. And so they go in like for a pit stop to get gas, but while they are, the other planets are moving. So they lose their place in line. They aren't going backward. They just slowed down. They kind of cruised through the pit stop, and came back in. So they lost their place. So they're tracked backward. So when you hear retrograde, the universe hasn't gone crazy. It just, that planet slowed down in its relationship to the sun. Uranus is stationing on the 28th. That's tomorrow. And it's going to stay retrograde until January 27th. Why do you care? Because if you got anything in Taurus between 23 and 19 and 23, or Taurus, Leo, Scorpio, Aquarius, 19 to 23 of the fixed. This is stuff you learn in school, but if somebody looks at your chart, but all you have to know if you're haven't studied astrology, and we've got people in the room who haven't, we got some that have. Expect sudden changes, awakenings, surprises. Uranus, that's its title, and it's stationing the same day as this super full moon in Pisces, which is unusual, blah, blah, blah. So between now and we're expecting a lot of things to get very intense and unstable. You're going to see a lot of changes. It's like, this is really weird, man. And you're like, okay, so the universe is electrifying everything. It says, what are you going to change? What are you going to change? So this fall, well, Pluto's been retrograde, and it's until October, and it completes its square to the nodes, which we talked about in October. By November, it kind of starts to move on. This pattern has forced major shifts in life behavior, as well as shifts in thinking and consciousness. So I think you've seen that. I don't know if you felt it. Just put your hand up. Have you seen a lot of shifts in people's behavior over the last 6 months? I have. I got lots of phone calls to they say it's true. Coming in September 6, we have 10. The way we speak, we have 10 planets. The sun and the moon are not really planets. They're the lights in the sky. So the planets themselves go retrograde against the sun. The sun and the moon are never seen as retrograde, okay? So 6 of the 8 planets are going to be retrograde in the month of September. What does that mean to you? It's calling for introspection. It's calling for a review of old situations. It's called clear up the past. You got stuff that's been hanging and lingering, get it done. Because retrograde means review, repeat, redo. Okay? So if you got anything lingering out there that needs to be cleaned up, redone, you're looking at it. This is a very dynamic time period between now and the end of the year. That's the message that we're getting to. So, spiritually speaking, now Neptune, good old Neptune. Oh, I should go back and show you Neptune. Wait a minute.
That's so interesting.
I do. Okay, today, here's Neptune. Where is it? Oh, I lost my cursor there. I see it, but I can't find my cursor. There it is. That's what I was looking for. Still can't find it. Keeps showing up.
Can I ever show you pictures of my dog?
Oh, that's weird, huh?
Lauren?
Not recently.
Neptune is the pitchfork down here. I'm not sure why we aren't. Maybe I can do that.
Just turn around. I know.
I probably can. Well, except people are online. There. That's Neptune. I don't know why it got locked. Who knows? Because Mercury went retrograde yesterday and electricity is gone wacky. That's why. I didn't even talk about Mercury being retrograde. I mean, that happens 3 times a year. I don't know. It's probably in that list somewhere. But in the midst of this, Mercury does it quite often. So you hear that quite often. You're like, eh. So it's like if you got any appointments, check them, check the time, check the date, check your phone, because they'll show up on the wrong day, the wrong time, or they won't come. And you're like, where are they? So if you live by a schedule, good luck. But Neptune's our spiritual planet. Neptune wasn't discovered until the 1800s. It wasn't discovered until we had the telescope, and it's been given rulership over Pisces. Sound familiar? This is our full moon. So Neptune rules Pisces, but it rules vision and dreams and spirituality and intuition and your inner world. Where Saturn is bottom line, go to work, take out the laundry, pay the bills, do the Saturn work. but Neptune is your inner work. So that's Neptune. And Neptune has a 165-year orbit, and it takes about 3 degrees a year. Now, keep in mind, there's 30 degrees to a side, and there's 360 degrees in a circle, and it's only moving 3 degrees. So it's eking through. It's that 13 or 14 years to a sign, okay? So it's between 27 and 25 Pisces, and it's gone retrograde till December.
Yes.
Then it's going to start forward again, and it's going to go 25 to 29 Pisces until August of 24. During this period, it will square the galactic center. Now, what is the galactic center? Well, let's see if I can do this again. Let's do this. This is the zodiac. If you put a line from the center of Earth out to the center of our galaxy.
Oh, yeah.
So,
I'm a big
my mic. Hang on. Hang on, Annie. Let me see.
So
let's see. Can you please?
So I splinted his leg, and his name is.
Oh, Linda. Oh, Linda, mute your mic. Oh, yeah, Linda, can't turn yours off. It's creating feedback for them. That's what it is. There, I did it. Okay. There you go. It's muted. I didn't know you had an echo. Sorry. So here you go. We're almost done here, but what I want to talk about now, and many people have talked about a lot of stuff. They have not. I haven't heard anybody talking about this because Neptune is this outer planet and it rules spirituality and it rules our vision. The galactic center, if you draw a line, according to NASA and a lot of other astronomy as well as astrology people, the center from Earth out toward the center of the galaxy right now is going out through 28 degrees of Sagittarius. Well, 26 to 29 Pisces squares the galactic center. So you're like, okay, what's that mean? I don't know what a square is, right? So what I'm telling you is that Neptune is in connection on its CB radio with the galactic center. And what's happening? Was anybody listening to Congress a few weeks ago when we had this whole group about UFOs and communications and how they've known about it for years and how they still won't tell and who's in charge and who's hiding it? But Congress was discussing it for 2 or 3 days. It's normal. It keeps eking out. I've been saying ever since Pluto started into this, I'm like, I got news for you people. When Pluto hits Aquarius, we're going to connect. We're going to find out what we haven't been told. Let's face it, we are one tiny planet in one tiny solar system, in one of many galaxies, in one of many universes. And we're the only life in the universe. How egotistical can you get? Really. Not that they all are, because it's a rather unique situation and you're going to grow a different kind of life, I guess. I don't know. But the fact that now they're finally saying, oh, we've known about this and we've been, and it's IA and it's AI. You watch between now and the end of August of 24, while Neptune's squaring the galactic center, we're going to hear much more about higher levels of existence and other things that are communicating. Because Neptune will thin the veil. That's what it does. It makes people that are psychic more psychic. Those of you who pick things up are going to start picking up stuff you didn't pick up before. And you're like, am I crazy? No. Let me tell you that Neptune squaring the galactic center, the veil is thinner. It's a fact. It can be easier to transition. It's easy to pick up dreams. It's easier to do communicate with the others. I don't care. The veil going to be thinner. Okay. So between December and April of this year, in April 24, I've made some typos there. That's April of 24. That veil is actually Neptune and Pluto will be sextile, which is an opportunity. Pluto is the deeper meaning of life. And we're going to get some new insights. I'm just telling you, we're going to get a doorway to deeper stories and a door. So those of you that channel, meditate, write, doors open. veil's thin, it's real. And that's what I want to say. So for those of us who are going to get up and go to work for the next 3 months, you're like, well, what does that mean to us? With all this Uranian energy, it's a changing time. Pluto will be in January coming to Aquarius. It's been in Capricorn for 20 years, grounding and serious in business. And now we're going into Aquarius and the new doors are opening. The new doors are opening. So here it is. The eclipse cycle is shifting. Okay, so here's my closing statement here. The eclipse cycle. The nodes take 19 years to go around, 18.6. And so they're in a sign about 1.5 years. So they've been in the Taurus, Scorpio. We've been having eclipses in Taurus, Scorpio for the last 18 months. It's fixed Earth, stable, stay fixed, stay grounded, don't make changes. We are just shifted in the last month into the Aries Libra pairing, which is cardinal personal, calling for leaving the status quo behind, moving into cardinal action and initiating mode. So those of you who have anything there are feeling like it's time to take action, to move, to get moving. The eclipse in the fall that I told you is 21 Libra. It's a very strong eclipse. It's total. And it'll square the nodes of the US. So we know we're coming into some trauma. But it will also trigger Eris, which is a microplanet. And it's Princess Warrior. She was interesting. She's got a 500-year orbit, basically. But the eclipses are going to trigger Eris. We are seeing this warrior energy coming out. People wanting to fight for what they believe, fight for what they think is right. And so I see this next 3 to 4 months as being rather assertive, break loose, independent. So, if it's not your chart and you're not feeling it, step aside because the energy's there. So there we go. That's what I've got to say about the next few months. It's not devastating. I don't think the Earth's going to blow up, but I do think that the spiritual and the karmic and the psychic doors are opening. So I suggest that you put your notebook by your bed and channel some of the energy. And so the call to action is, if you've got to choose, Pisces can be fear. I'd say choose love. And Uranus can be restless, impatient. Choose patience. Uranus, you got 2 choices, impatience or patience. So when it's right in your face, choose patience. We do have choices. We have free will. So that is what, let me mute this. So let's see, Mr. Beth. Oh, Beth is in. Beth popped in. Okay. Boo, she said. Interesting, said Denise. Okay. So it's 5:20. Talk longer than I meant to, but this is a busy time. This is a very active, busy, aggressive time. And so be careful of your choices. Be conscious and use your psychic energy wisely, because believe me, you can sell yourself the dream quicker than anybody else. So watch the Kool-Aid. Okay. Watch what you're drinking. Any questions before we close? Any major questions or comments? No? We're good? All right. Patricia, nothing? Go ahead.
I was just going to say, you're talking about the alien thing. My friend talked about how the Army Air Corps became the Air Force shortly after the Roswell situation.
Right.
And Trump formed the Space Corps. So I think that there's a correlation.
What happened in Congress I found fascinating, because what came out is that they have a lot of records, but they don't want to scare the world. They don't want anybody to go to panic. These people have a higher consciousness than we do, believe me. If they've got the sense to build something and come here and not bother anybody, they're farther down the path than we are. So, we're the dangerous ones, probably. It's the way I look at it. If there were any dangerous ones, it's us, not them. So that's my thought. But we're not in this planet. We're not on this universe alone. We're not supposed to be. So live your highest life. Make your best choices, because the choice is up to you. So there we go.
Some really fun stuff out there. I got some rocks. We
ask